So in this video, I'm talking about High School DxD Volume 12, as I've been enjoying reading it, been enjoying getting back into it, and of course, as from Volume 11, Issei dies. It's over. The series is finished, as I said in there, and what a shock, we have another volume. I'm just joking, okay? I know some people can't take a joke, so I have to be very, very clear on that. Issei dies, now it's all about Rias and finding herself a new man. What I loved about this volume, actually, but I do want to discuss about a flip side to this, because I did see a comment in my Volume 11 review, which luckily I'd already read the series before, and this is a reread and a re-review, so I already knew what was coming, but kind of a little bit annoying, because that was technically a spoiler in that comment. But what I wanted to talk about was the impact that Issei's death has on the crew. And one of the criticisms that I did see, and I think it's worth discussing, is that this doesn't feel like it has as much of a lasting impact. But I also think it's because of the events that play out that makes it difficult for that to happen. And what this comment was discussing about was that Issei's death doesn't last long enough that it doesn't feel like it has a long-term effect. And it does make sense, because when they find out about Issei's death, many of them are very distraught about it. They kind of isolate themselves away, and they've kind of put themselves in that corner. Like, Rias is pretty broken up about it, and even the others are pretty heavily hit by it. They kind of lash out, they become a lot more emotionally irrational, but very quickly after that do they start to realize that things don't make sense, that Issei maybe could be alive. So it does remove that kind of punch that you kind of were... That's the thing, I wanted to feel that punch of like what they would be feeling with that knowledge of, oh, Issei's dead, he's not coming back, we're on our own, we're being attacked on all sides, he's not here to help us. But at the same time, they try to do that for a very short period of time, but then they quickly throw in that whole, oh, well, actually, he could be still alive. The only one that really does show the lasting impacts, really, that I felt more like a real gut punch, was actually two, was Gasper and Kiba. Those were the two. But Gasper's was really cool because it kind of broke him out of his sort of limit on his power and really made him kind of like go to a point where his power is like scarily good, which is clearly why his family were kind of like isolating him. They were scared of his power, not like looking down on him. Well, they probably were still, because they are pretty snobbish, the vampires, but it's this whole idea of like they were petrified of his power and what he was capable of. So I do understand that point of view. That's why I'm just bringing it up. I can understand both perspectives, that some people would say that this is perfectly fine the way it is, because a lot of things are going on, and I do love the way Issei does come back as well. But I can kind of see that what would it be like, a what if scenario, is if actually Issei was dead for like a multitude of volumes. But at the same time, if you did that, I think a lot of fans probably wouldn't have cared so much about these volumes, because they would have been like, well, we want Issei. But they could have also had Issei in the dimensional gap doing his own thing, kind of, maybe something could have gone on in there, and he could have had his own internal conflict going on. Something, it could have been anything. Again, the writer could create anything in there. And then have Issei come back and say like volume 14 or 15 or something, and make it feel like, or you could just have a bit of a time skip in this volume, and then make it really feel like it's been quite a while and they've had to learn to readjust to Issei's death, but they're still really struggling and many internal conflicts are going on. That would have been really cool. But at the same time, I do love the way that Issei does come back, where it's the kids that do not lose faith. Would have also been really cool if they had actually lost all hope, and that it was the kids that brought them back to the reality of, no, Issei can come back, right? Giving them hope, because they kind of see the evil pieces. They go to someone that is an expert in that, which is the one that does all the games and stuff, and he's the one that knows all about it, and finds out that, hey, there's actually a possibility that Issei is still alive, and it's a mutated piece, and all this other kind of stuff that's going on. And then, of course, they get attacked. I just would have loved it if actually that maybe didn't have happened. And again, I love the volume. I'm just kind of thinking of a what-if scenario of like really making it feel like a gut punch. Because it would have been really cool if they did really lose a lot of despair, and it's the kids that kind of sit there and go, yeah, Issei's going to come back, zoom, zoom, poke, poke kind of thing, which I love. And then they kind of do that big ritual, and then Issei does come back, and it's like, oh my god, the kids summoned the Opie dragon. That would have just been hilarious. Which it is kind of what they've done, but I would have liked to have seen the team being brought down even more into despair. That's kind of what I'd like to see. But overall, I still love the volume. I love some of the things that they kind of delve into. Like I said, Gasper's power increase and Kiba's as well. I also love the fact that Issei kind of gets like a little bit creeped out at the fact that when he's brought back, he's just surrounded by men that are all sort of looking at him with amazement and being like, ooh, Issei. Like he kind of feels like they're all falling in love with him, like he's built a harem of men because they've all gravitated towards his power. And I love that. I love the way it kind of confuses him a little bit, because of course these guys aren't in love with him. They love Issei's determination and power and growth, and especially in that unique and weird way, the zoomy power that Issei has. And the kids having the dream and Issei kind of connecting with them with the dreams. I would love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What would you thought if there was a potential of maybe making it feel like, it doesn't have to be over a multitude of volumes, but maybe have a bit of a time lapse in this where they do kind of have to really get over the fact that Issei's been gone for say like 6 or 12 months or something, a longer period of time, and them having to readjust, and all this chaos going on with the Chaos Brigade and everything going on, and then also the Hero Faction, and the Hero Faction is the one that's doing the real big problems, and the Chaos Brigade doing their own little thing, but all of these kind of things going on all at the same time with Issei's death, because I feel like it would have been an interesting what if scenario. So again, give me your thoughts in the comment section down below. And then of course Issei being in the dimensional gap with Great Red, and also Ophias or whatever you want to pronounce it as, and her kind of talking to Issei and him getting his new body. I really love the connection that Issei has with her. She's like an adorable little sister. That's the way I see it for Issei. And the fact that she kind of goes back with him, and they're like, let's go back home. Let's, she has somewhere to go to now. She has essentially sort of like a family. She has friends. She's able to have some form of meaning. And that's really what it is. That's how Issei sees it. It's like a dragon that's just lonely. And I look forward to seeing more of her. The great thing about this is I have forgotten a lot of the stuff that I've read over the volume, so I'm not going to spoil anything, because it's kind of hard, because I have forgotten a lot of it. That's the thing when you read it and you've waited many years to reread it. You kind of do forget some things. And so I can't remember how much of an impact she will play in the story, and I really look forward to seeing more of her in the actual story. And then also, one of the other things that I noticed in this volume, and it's kind of a reoccurring thing, the new generation of devils and the older generation, the real big powerful ones, they're kind of sitting there kind of having this mindset of like, they feel like they need to move on, and that the new generation like Issei, Rias and the gang are kind of the new generation that is going to be there to protect the world and the people and devil society, etc., and angels and all that from the new growing threats. And it's kind of sad, because I like the leaders. I like, Sensei and all of those, and Big Bro for Rias. I like them. I like their contribution to the story. But you can really tell the theme there, that they are kind of hinting that there is going to be some situation that is going to come up where they're going to move on and no longer be around, and that it's going to be on Issei, Rias and the gang to kind of step up and take the higher position, not exactly their position, but take a more forward role in being the protectors of the people and the kids, in this case for Issei, because the kids really look up to him. And I love the connection that Issei does have with the kids. I really do like that. I think it's a really touching, nice connection. And it makes sense for Issei, because he is a very kind, gentle person deep inside, even though he has some weird hobbies and loves, maybe to an age bracket like that. But at the end of the day, those kids are going to grow up. They're going to learn about the birds and the bees, as some people might know what that means. Some might not. I don't know, depending on culture and age and if they ever got that talk. But in reality, they will learn about that stuff, and what's the best guy to teach them? Issei. I mean, he's just a lovable dork. That's the way I see him. And that's why I always love seeing his growth and development throughout the story. Then there's also Drake dying. No, I'm just kidding. He goes to sleep. I love the way he trolls Issei, and he does like the whole big, oh, I'm going away, Issei. Oh, it was nice knowing you. You know, I made sure the gear's here for you. And Issei is basically about to bawl his eyes out, and then he's like, just goes for a nap. So clearly Drake will come back, and I do think it is smart for him to go to a sleep. He's kind of done a big thing to help Issei survive through this. So Drake's kind of gone to sleep for a while. It is clever as a way to kind of have some characters go away for a period of time and then have them come back. Maybe Drake will come back during a very important moment when Issei needs him or needs to go to the next stage of his power-up. Maybe Issei goes through Multitude and then Drake helps him through another major step. The relationship, of course, with him and Issei is just... I love that relationship. It's similar with the kids. There's just something heartwarming about it. It really makes Issei feel like he's a person, because when you look at a lot of harems, you get a lot of harem characters that are very blank, boring, one-dimensional. And even though some people that don't understand High School DxD would just think Issei's entire personality is built around Opie, which it is partially, but there is a lot more to Issei. There is a good, gentle, kind-hearted person behind him that just wants to do good and wants to do the right thing, even if he does obsess a little bit too much about Opie to the point where sometimes he's kind of clouding his own judgment because of it. And that also leads into the next thing of Issei using his brains for combat more. Sure, he's getting stronger and stronger and stronger, but having power and knowing how to wield that power is two completely different things. And Issei is starting to learn to use situations, become a little bit more engineering in his head. Like, he's in a sticky situation. He kind of thinks things through a little bit more quickly, sometimes slower, sometimes faster. But he's trying to be a little bit more proactive and strategizing things ahead, which is great leadership skills and will probably be something that he'll be able to help Rias with, or potentially if he ever decides to, have his own team. That allows him to be a leader type position, which is what I think is really important for Issei as well. It's a great volume. I absolutely love the volume, so don't get me wrong when I'm talking about the what if scenarios. It's just one of those things that I like doing Riv series like this, is looking at the positives, the negatives, and looking at the what if scenarios. Like, what if they did this? And I think it's an interesting discussion to have, and maybe it's worth having at a later time, but because this volume is kind of like... it's not that big of a deal with Issei's death, it's just a one volume death kind of situation. It does feel like it could have been more interesting if it did drag out for a couple of volumes, and then you could have had a big video discussion about the impact that it did have, because it would have been cool to see on a larger scale. But because it's just one volume, it doesn't quite have that same punch that I think it could have had. It's just my opinion. I'd love to know yours in the comment section down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I think it was a very interesting discussion, even if it was a little bit spoilery. Try and keep the spoilers to a minimal. Not for myself so much, but for others that are keeping along with the light novel series. And again, if you like this video, hit the like, subscribe, and I'll see you beautiful nerds in the next video.